Hi everyone, in this video we'll be taking a look at how you can Dockerize your Node.js applications. So let's get started. So what is Node.js? Node.js is actually a JavaScript runtime which is built on top of Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. It was built for scalable web applications, and something unique about Node.js is that it is asynchronous by default and it is event driven. So in typical languages or frameworks you would see that it's usually sequential execution. You finish one action after another, one method after another, but here it's all asynchronous by default. And Node.js actually uses something called the event loop, which helps us to achieve concurrent executions. So even though JavaScript is single-threaded, it has this mechanism which allows itself to perform concurrent executions. So Node.js is really excellent for I/O heavy applications, which is input and output. And what do I mean by that? So it's really good for things like serving HTTP requests or disk reads and writes, or even database operations. So these are I/O heavy operations, and it will be really suitable for these kind of applications. And Node.js is actually one of the most popular server-side language or framework for web applications, and you can find out more on nodejs.org. So this is a chart from Stack Overflow, and I like to use Stack Overflow because it really shows how active the community, the dev community is about a particular language or framework. And we can see that Node.js, the trend for Node.js has been pretty much on the rise ever since 2009, 2010, right? It has actually surpassed its competitors like Ruby on Rails or Django. So it's really one of the more popular ones that developers like to use to kickstart their MVPs or web applications today. So next, let's talk about Docker and why Docker is so good. So firstly, let's talk about why do we actually need Docker. Docker was created because deploying your services was just too hard. Like there was often so much mismatches in the library, the tool versioning, they are missing configs, the files are missing. So there's always some kind of complexity which was associated with packaging your app. And this is how Docker solves it. It really solves it by bundling and packaging your files together for you. So if I'm actually building a Node.js application, for example, so I need the Node.js runtime, I need a database which is Mongo, and there's my app, of course, and there's associated configs. So all of these individual things which actually come together and helps to make your app run, they can all be packaged together nicely, including the specific versions that you need, and then that can be actually shared. So bundling this process is called actually creating a Docker image, and we can even host this image on something like Docker Hub. So think about it as like something like GitHub, which is for repos, but here Docker Hub is for Docker images, and then we can run this image on something called a container. So this ensures that everyone who's running a service will be using exactly the same version, the same configs and dependencies. So no more mismatches. So everyone uses the same dependencies, same libraries, same configs to run your app. So talking about containers, containers are actually a unit of software that helps us to package our code and our dependencies in a very compact manner. So the main advantage of this is that it helps us to run our apps efficiently and reliably in various environments. So when we are packaging a code, like I mentioned, a Docker image is created which contains everything that our app requires to run. So when we build these images and we run them, they become containers. So the huge advantage of doing so is that our software runs in the same exact way no matter what OS you're using, and under the hood, be it Linux or Windows, it runs in the same way. So this uniformity that Docker containers help us provide is really crucial, especially when deploying apps for production. So in recent times, containerized apps have largely taken over the traditional method of running apps via VMs, which is virtual machines. VMs actually require a full copy of the underlying OS to run, and you can actually imagine how much space the overall duplication of the system libraries, tools, etc. would consume. So all of that is really solved by using Docker. So now let's take a look at how we can kickstart and Dockerize your Node.js application. And before that, make sure you have Docker installed. If you have not installed Docker yet, you can go to the official website here on installing Docker Desktop for Mac or Windows or Ubuntu, depending on your operating system. So just choose the appropriate installer and get that installed, and we'll be good to go. So let's get into step one. So if you don't already have a project, then you can just simply clone my modified project, which is here, um, and credits to this repository which I've forked and modified from. So let's go to our terminal and clone the project. So git clone. So that's it, it's done. So we can go into the folder, and first things first, I'm going to install all the dependencies with npm I, which is for npm install. So let's go ahead and open this up in VS Code. And we can see that we have a very nicely structured application. So if we go into the source folder, we can see that our API, our app index, middlewares, everything is already defined. So this is a very nice boilerplate for you to get started. Under the API folder, I have created this structure for you, which is routes, controllers, services. So if you're following the MVC architecture, then probably you're also going to have a folder which is for models, where you create the entities for your database. So here we're just going to keep it simple without any database. And how this works is that we have an index file which actually kickstarts our application and tells it to listen on port 3000 by default, unless you override it with an environment variable. We have this app file which actually defines all the various routes and configures our application. So if you just visit the root slash, then it will just return you this JSON, which is status success, and with the data with a message of hello world. And otherwise, for all the other APIs, we're going to use this /API/v1 prefix for APIs, and all of the routes are defined in this file. So if we go into this routes folder, and if you go into the index, you can see that I've actually created a route for users/users. So this is a route, and I've actually defined it in this users.routes.js. And similarly, if you have many different routes, maybe /admin, then you would have a admins.routes.js file which defines that. So if you go into that, users.routes actually specifies the prefix, the route prefix, and any parameters that we need. So if I've specified two routes for this demo. One is get users and one is get user by ID. And of course, the route itself here in the file, we're not going to handle that. Instead, we're going to create a dedicated controller, which is called users controller, which will handle all of this. So under the controllers folder, I have users controller, and if we go into that, we can see that it has two methods. One is to get users, and another is to get user by ID, and it serves that request. And again, the controller's job is to just handle the request, but it does not actually perform any kind of business logic. Usually how we structure is that we usually have a service file, for example this user service, which will perform any underlying business logic, and then it passes the result back to the controller. And that's what I've done here. So if you go into the user service, which is defined here, we can see that there is a sample array of users that I've created. So usually any database interactions will be done here. But for this demo, let's actually use this sample. So get users would just return the users array, and get user by ID would just look for that specific ID and return that user. So if it can't find anyone, then it just returns an empty object. So that's the sample boilerplate code that we have here. And next up, let's go ahead and actually do the Dockerizing of our Node.js application. And for that, the second step would be to add a Docker file. So let's go ahead, let's create a new file, call it Dockerfile. And coming back, there's many different instructions here. Don't worry, I'll be explaining them step by step. Before that, let's copy and paste all this different code. So here's my Docker file, and let me explain step by step what's happening. So if you go to our terminal, and let me clear this up, and I put node-v, which gives me the version of the node runtime I'm using. It's 14.17.0, and this is exactly the version that I want my application to be running when I deploy it. So that's why I've chosen this version. And similarly, if you have a different version of Node, or your application requires a specific version of Node to be supported, then you can specify that version here. And basically this would download the relevant node image from Docker Hub, and we'll use that to run the application. Next, I've defined the environment as production because I'm going to deploy it in the production environment. And the third command here is basically to set a working directory. When we are creating a container, it's by default blank, and then we want to say that, hey, all the following commands after this, you need to perform inside a directory called /app. So that's what I've defined here. So our working directory is now /app. So next, we are going to be installing the dependencies, and for that, I'm copying the package.json file to dot. So dot refers to our working directory, the root of the working directory actually, and we are going to copy any package log.json files as well. And finally, I'm going to run npm install, but also with the flag -- production because I don't need the dev dependencies. And next step, I will be copying the source files, which is dot to dot means it's copying right from the root folder into a working directory's root. And of course, the last step is to run our application, which is done by the cmd command, and it says to run npm start. So that is our Docker file. And we should also add a docker ignore file. So for example, we don't need to actually copy over any dependencies because we're already installing the dependencies on our container. So instead, what we can do is that we create a new file called docker ignore. So this is very similar to this git ignore file here, where you specify any files or folders to be ignored. Similarly, a docker ignore file has the same purpose but for the Docker container. So I'm going to specify node modules here. So the third step is to add a Docker Compose file. Docker Compose is a tool for us to define and run multi-container Docker applications. And it's really simple. All you need is a YAML file, and you define all the config, and it will help you to manage, run, and stop Docker containers for your application. So let's go ahead and create a Docker Compose file. So again, new file, docker-compose.yml for YAML, and here we go. So version actually refers to the Docker Compose version, so you can leave it as it is. Services that I'm defining is actually my app, which is the name for my app. I'm defining the port, so and here I'm saying port 3000:3000, which means I'm going to expose this port from the container to the outside world from port 3000 to 3000. Of course, you can expose from 3000 to 5000, or you can do the mapping in any other way that you would like. And here I'm keeping it simple. I'm keeping the ports the same. And then I'm going to have a build context, which is to use the Docker file that we have in the root of our folder, which is here. So that's step 3, and let's go for step 4, which is to actually run the Docker container. To do that, it's really simple. Let's go back to a terminal, and we're going to key in docker-compose up -d --build. So let me explain this command. So here we have Docker Compose, and we're going to spin up our containers, and -d tells it to run it in detached mode, and --build tells us to build the Docker images. So with this command, let's press enter. So you can see that it is actually running all the steps that we defined in our Docker file, and since I've already done this before, it's really fast. It has already cached these images. So it has exported to an image here, and finally it is running the container, which is labeled as express API starter _ my app. So to see this, I'm going to clear this, and you can use docker ps-a, and this shows you your currently running containers. I can see that the name is express API starter my app 1, and it is running in port 3000. It's exposed to port 3000 outside. And to see what is the logs of this container, I'm going to key in docker logs -f and the container ID, which is BAC. You can just specify a subset of this container ID. So here you can see that it's listening on port 3000. So to really know if this is going to work, we should be visiting localhost 3000 to see if it shows anything. So let's do that. So I'm going to bring up my browser here, and I'm going to visit localhost 3000, and we can see, as expected, it says status success, data, message, hello world. So if you go back to Docker container, in the logs you can see that we actually access the root route here, which is slash, and the response was 200, and this data was given back. And we have also defined a few other routes, if you remember. So in the source folder, under the user routes, we have refined two different routes to get the users and get the user by ID. But remember that inside our app.js, we specified a prefix for our routes. So it's going to be slash API slash v1. So putting this together, it will be slash API slash v1 and then slash users. And hitting this, you will get all our users. So it's data users, and you can see all of our users here, which is just the two user objects that I had created as samples. So that means our get users endpoint is working. So basically this is working. This get users is working. Next we're going to try get user by ID. So here actually we are passing the user ID in the route parameter, and how our controller handles this is to actually use this thing called request.params.id. So all the parameters are stored in this object, and we are accessing the specific parameter which is called ID. So anything that comes after this slash, it will be stored as ID, and inside our controller we can access that inside the params object. So based on that, I'm actually getting the user by ID, and I'm going to return that in the data. So to see that, let's go ahead and append the ID. So if I append 1, I should be getting back John Doe, and that's exactly what I get back, which is name is John Doe, email is John. And if I change it to /2, then I get back the respective user as well. So the getting user by ID now works. So there we go. We have actually created a Node.js application. We actually Dockerized, and it's now running within our Docker container. We have exposed the ports, which allows us to access it in our local browser as well. So I hope you learned how you can kickstart a Node.js application and how you can Dockerize that for your production deployments. Thank you.